Oh, if somebody can put up the link to the stream, I appreciate it.
Okay, we are live.
Stream, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Hello.
We are live.
Stream. We are live?
Yep.
Cool.
Welcome, everybody, to Vapor's Worldview. I can't even find my, oh, there it is. There's my hangout. Welcome. It is Sunday sometime in October. I think, it's October 19th.
That sounds right.
It's a beautiful Sunday in Minnesota. Joe, how you doing, my brother?
I'm good. It's a little chilly today, though.
Yeah, oh, man, it's 65 degrees in Minnesota. I'm doing the whole short sleeve T-shirt, my Odin T-shirt. It's a beautiful day today, and we are glad to be here. This is the last Sunday that we'll be working in October, right, Joe? We're not going to be on air next week.
No, we will be. The team will be all over the place. We will be, and I will be over at Vaper Expo in Phoenix, and you and Mondo will be joining me there. And
we're going to be together again?
Yes, imagine that.
Holy! Now listen, I want you to know, I've already pre-posted bonds with several Bales bondsmen out there.
That's
so we're good to go ahead of time. Okay.
That's helpful, and
Right.
We'll have Robin and Ian and Fred will be down at VaporCon down in Richmond. And
Awesome.
Alex won't be there.
What?
Alex is not going to be at VaporCon, are you?
I thought you were going to con.
I'm going to be at VaporCon.
You're going to be. Oh, and where is it that you're chickening out on us? Houston.
I'm not chickening out.
He's chickening out on Summit.
I'm going to be.
You'll be in somewhere else, right? Out of the country?
Well, I'm going to be going to London that week for
nice.
the East Dig Summit.
Oh, okay. Well,
It's a different summit.
That's not chickening out then.
No.
I don't know. He's not with us.
You get to.
That's resting up.
We'll miss you, man.
Yeah, you get to eat bland food and drink warm beer, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no booze for me, but whatever the English deem as food, yes, I'll eat that.
Yeah, I get that completely. I think.
Kidney pie.
She was just looking at her phone again.
Who made? No, the cat's coming. You're going to see the cat in a minute. Yeah, the cat. Soon he'll come over, or he'll knock the camera around. I don't know why. But no, I was not looking at my phone again.
Yeah, we caught you earlier, but that's okay.
Well, obviously, we got on screen up on top, we have Sir Alex from CASA. We're calling him Sir Alex now because he's going to England, and so we have to get him ready for his trip to England. And that would be me, the lesser man in the middle, right between the lovely Alex and the lovely Patrick, Knock Noir on the right. Down in the lower left, the fetching Robin, and I'm the only one that calls her that, and I think I'm the only one.
Fetching.
Anybody can call her that because it's a beautiful word, and she's a beautiful lady. And down our right, the man that we all love and know, Mr. Vaping Kindness himself, Martin 315. How you doing?
Now that's funny.
Well, you know, it's funny, Robin, because whenever me and Joe talk to somebody in separate terms, Joe always introduces me as the nice one of the pair, and I never thought he was mean, but I guess he's abrupt and likes to tell it as it is, and I might be a little bit more political, so.
I will not comment.
You.
I thought I was the nice one.
Yeah, you got to be kidding.
Knock, our little ray of sunshine.
Our little ray of sunshine. I like that. That's good. Oh my gosh. Well, welcome everybody, and it's Sunday, and welcome to Vapor's Worldview. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Nova Broadcasting, VapeNet, Vaping 411, Quest, whoever else is simulcasting us, and welcome to all the different networks that are following us. I don't have all 5 network feed. I need someone to send me that link out of our group.
Inside chat.
Oh, it's inside chat. I should open up side chat then, shouldn't I? Duh.
Yes, you should. It's right there.
Okay, now I can follow all 5 and maybe get some questions going. So that's our opening. We had all the fancy music. We didn't have any fancy music.
Oh, yeah.
So we didn't do anything. We're so trendy on our show, aren't we?
I tell you. I'm telling you,
I think-
making new waves every time.
I know, I know. Well, you know what? We're drama free, and we just keep our boots on the ground. I think we're almost up to 6,000 Facebook members and almost 1,000 supporting members, almost 100 supporting vendors, and the militia is very thankful for the support that we get, and thankful for our boots. You know, before we turn it over to Noct, we should talk about. We're finding our way onto mainstream media, right, Joe?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we have a very unusual opportunity in that in Chicago. What station was that again? I can't remember.
Monday, we will be on WCGO with Jeff Pincus at 5:25 p.m. Central Time, probably finishing off the last half of the show, or the last quarter of the show with him. I was able to go on the show with him last week. Lisa Heinerman from LKA Vapes was on, and she's a Chicago-based juice vendor, and I love her liquid. And she was on, and you know, Jeff was wanting to talk about advocacy because he's a big-time cigar smoker, and he also is very supportive of the vaping industry and what we're trying to do here. So I called in because Lisa, you know, wasn't as knowledgeable on all the advocacy part of it, and spent probably 10 minutes on the show with him on last week. And his producer took all my information, called me on Friday, and said they want us back on Monday. So we may very well become a regular contributor on WCGO out of Chicago with Jeff Pincus and Daniel French as producer, and so we're looking forward to it. So we will pimp it out on our Vaping Militia Facebook page and probably Twitter, and we'll Twitter bomb it and Instagram bomb it and all that other stuff. But Monday at 5:25 p.m. That's tomorrow. Holy crap! That's like 24 hours from now. 5:25 p.m. on WCGO in Chicago. It'll be fun.
Fantastic.
It'll be fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So check us out. You know, even if you're not in Chicago, you can get on their website and you can listen to us and you know, make fun of the lesser man while he's on the radio.
We have to wait for you to be on the radio for that?
No, listen. I got big shoulders and strong legs. Bring it on, bring it.
Yes, but you shave them too. So anyway,
Nice.
sorry.
Nice.
Nice.
Wow. I'll do our Raider chick thing. Wow, Jim. Just wow.
Just wow.
Wow, yeah.
Just wow. Yeah. So Noct, what's going
one of the
on?
things. Go ahead, Noct.
Well, locally we don't have a lot this week. We have some nice little people in California. Piedmont, California. This is a second alert, or an update to a previous alert. If my computer will cooperate. We have, well, here we go. Dead air.
Okay. The suspense was killing us.
Yeah.
On the 20th, which is tomorrow, at the City Hall in Piedmont, California, they will have the introduction and first reading of their new ordinance, which will regulate vaping in the same manner that they regulate smoking.
So this is just another adding vaping into their Indoor Clean Air Act, basically.
Yeah, essentially. This is at 7:30 Pacific. So anybody, I don't even know where Piedmont, California is. I don't know if it's north, south, east, or west California.
I will find out. Even while you speak, I'll quickly.
Oh.
I will Google foo it.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
So that meeting is at 7:30 tomorrow night in the wonderful city of San Leandro. This is going to have the adoption. So this has already been was first read on the 6th, and tomorrow at 7 p.m. they will be adopting. It doesn't appear to be a public hearing.
Now, San
Piedmont.
Leandro's hearings already happened.
Yeah, Piedmont is a town surrounded by Oakland.
Yeah.
So I'm literally it's a burb inside of Oakland. So that's going to be an interesting meeting.
And this one also, the San Leandro, also includes language that is kind of weird. It's says that it's expanding their smoking ban, and it's also including language to penalize individuals and entities that are allowing vaping in their property.
That's in private property?
Yes.
So in San Leandro, they're penalizing business owners for allowing vaping at their own choice.
Yes.
What do we know what the current San Leandro law states? Do they include vaping in there, or is this adding that statement into their?
This is essentially adding it. It's section 412-400 of their municipal code, and it's targeting secondhand exposure. So any businesses you can be ticketed if you get caught, and B, the business or property owner can also be penalized if they are allowing it on their property.
Yeah, so CB says it right. So basically, the business owners are not going to have the right to operate their business as they see fit.
Nope.
And just like with cigarettes, Joe, what I've started to do, and I've put it on Instagram every time I do it. Whenever I travel now, and I'm in an airport, I take a picture of myself vaping inside that airport, and I've hashtagged it civil disobedience. I'm waiting. I really am waiting for my ticket. I guess this is an opportunity because I still don't know of anybody in the country that's received a ticket for vaping, other than when the one shop reported the other shop in New Jersey, right? Is there?
Right,
do we have one yet?
I've seen so far.
Yes, we do. I actually know one of the viewers on Vapers TV, Cajun guitarist, I believe, was given a ticket for vaping beside the smoker shack because he didn't want to be in the smoker shack. Pretty sure that it was that one.
He was given a police ticket, or was he given a warning from his work?
No, it was a warning, or it was a ticket from a police officer.
Wow. So he was beside the smoker shack and he got a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
So he was trying to minimize his exposure to the deadly secondhand smoke,
mm-hmm.
and he got a ticket.
Yes, pretty sure.
Ooh, I wonder if any one of those libertarian law groups would like to get involved with that.
It's crazy. It's just crazy.
Cigar Babe says she had
anything else we're looking at, not?
Well, we're looking at New York still. We don't know exact date on New York. That has been pushed into committee. We have a kind of maybe a soft date of the 24th, I believe.
It's the 23rd.
23rd.
Thursday. It's the next health committee meeting.
Yeah. And then, obviously, the stink that's going on in Philadelphia.
So let's go back to New York real quick, Patrick. So this is only the health committee recommendation. This is not a vote of the entire city council, right?
Not yet, but it's going to be.
Okay. All right.
Well, it has to make it out of committee first.
Yeah.
Right. It has to make it out of committee first. And so, all right. I misunderstood that. I thought this was in front of the whole city council, but this is just the committee right now. Okay.
Not yet.
All right.
And then Philly, it was introduced.
Philadelphia.
And then Philly was introduced. What was introduced was a proposal on the ordinance, $2 per device, any type of device that produces vapor, and a 50-cent per milliliter tax on juice.
Mm-hmm.
That was what was
That's
introduced.
Up to a maximum of $5 per
Right.
transaction.
$5, right. And only if it contains nicotine, I think. Right?
So,
Well, yeah.
so basically, are they putting a $2 per device tax on flashlights? Are they putting a $2 device tax on batteries at Walgreens? Are they, what about, are they taxing the lithium-ion battery flashlights that the police officers use in Philadelphia also? I know the answer to this, but
Yeah.
I
think
just.
it's safe to say that
That's
they don't
one. That's
understand
one of the
product
issues.
well enough
That's
to-
one
to
of the
follow
issues
it
that's
through.
extremely, with these type of bills, puts them in the weeds so far because the definition of the device is a device that produces vapor.
You know what I don't know is if it's per transaction. Like if I go in and buy a tank and a mod, is there just the $2 fee, or is there $2 on each of those items? I don't know.
It would be
You know
correct.
what? You know what we should do? Oh, this just came into my head. Robin, you're near Philadelphia. Go and buy, and I'll pay for it. Let's go buy one of those Nightcore 18650 flashlights. Keep it in the package. Go to the meeting. Open the package. Put a 510 connector on it, and vape out of it.
Okay.
Well, you can't really do that.
Wow.
No.
What are you trying to do
Wait
to
a
me
minute.
here?
There's some ideas. There's some ideas that you come up with which might have a few flaws in them, Jim. Just a few.
Well, but why would that have a flaw in it? If it's the same size tube as an 18650 flashlight battery. I wonder if the 510 connector. I'm going to go buy one and figure this out. See if it'll work.
They already have a public ban in place, do they not?
They do.
Yeah, but I mean, it shows how ridiculous this tax is. I mean,
It's ridiculous.
that means they're going to have to basically all of the police officers and the money that Philadelphia City Council spends on the police force, they're going to have to pay taxes on those flashlights.
Well, I think that even more to the point, if someone were to demonstrate just that without vaping in the city council chambers, essentially we have a very creative way of skirting the tax, which is going to Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever you buy that Nightcore flashlight. You don't have to buy. I mean, it highlights the argument that you're basically putting independent vapor retailers out of business, and you're not going to make as much money as you think off of this tax.
Right.
Well, the other thing too is thinking on the reality of it. Okay, Philadelphia is a big city, right? But it doesn't take you more than an hour to get across it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Yeah.
it depends on the time of day, but
Depending on traffic.
yeah, depending on traffic,
Depending
of
on
course.
Yeah.
But
I'm pretty sure
I
it
mean,
took me 2 hours to get out of Center City one morning.
so this tax is being assessed only within the city limits of Philadelphia, which means it's an absolute
Right.
boon for the businesses outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah, exactly. How many vape shops are in Philadelphia?
Somebody gave me a ballpark number of 100, but I think that's high. I really do think that's high.
We were able
Wow.
to identify 18, weren't we?
Yeah. Yep.
It's gone up.
But you know what? Like, I'm outside of the city. It takes me 15 minutes to get into the city from where I am. It'll take somebody there to get 15 minutes outside the city, obviously, and go buy their stuff in Bucks County where I am or wherever they happen to be. So they're not doing themselves any favors. They're really not.
And we need to, I want to point out that when, as absurd as these numbers are when they were put out, the way the city council flips them around so that they become public friendly is, of course, it's because we can't fund our schools.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't
Well,
get
wait a
me
minute. Wait a minute.
Don't get me
Let-
started.
Okay, I need to go to our vape smoke-free kids. Hold on a second. You guys talk amongst yourselves. Sorry, Robin, I had to do that.
Okay.
And by the way,
Oh,
Robin,
you sound like my mother.
by the way, Robin, Vape Vids in the militia room is from Bucks County, so
Oh, really? Okay, cool. I'm in Langhorne.
I'm gonna do a little homework here about exactly how much money Pennsylvania gets from the tobacco settlement agreement and tobacco-related, and see how much they spend on medical and anti-smoking, and see how much is left over for the schools. So I will be right back.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you also, Jim, take a look at how long that school district's been in trouble?
Okay, well, God.
And that's the
how much
absurdity
money
of
I think
it.
that,
from the state.
yeah, I think that was pre-internet, right? So we can. I'm gonna have to go and do some study on rock and chisel paper, right, to find out how long that school district's been in trouble.
Seriously, you need the Flintstones.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is just when we look at this is just yet another twist on the Save the Kids argument, and of course when we come out against it, we sound like the crazy people that don't want to give money to the kids.
Right.
That's why they use those style of arguments.
I think that's what they hope, but we are talking about Philadelphia here.
Yeah.
I think the overall, I think the city council people are the only folks not listening to reason here, which apparently is the trend in Philadelphia. I think most people know that the school and the rest of the city is so poorly managed that I don't think anybody actually wants to give them access to more money, because it's not going to go. They can raise another $500 million and say it's earmarked for the children, and there's no guarantee that any of that money is going to schools.
No,
Okay.
it probably won't.
Okay, there's my Google foo has come to fruition. Pennsylvania received expected to receive in 2014 1.2 billion with a B, a capital B, two B's beside it, $1.2 billion in tobacco-generated revenue for 2014. The CDC recommends that they spend 140 million of that 1.2 billion on tobacco prevention. Pennsylvania will actually spend in 2014 $5 million on tobacco prevention. That means $1.195 billion. Now, I know we throw around these millions and billions a lot, but do you realize how much a fucking billion dollars is? Okay, $1.195 billion goes into their general budget. Philadelphia, fix your own damn schools.
It's just poorly managed, like Alex said, and it always has been for as long as I can remember.
Well, I mean, the lady that's pushing for this has already been investigated for ethical violations multiple times.
Not only investigated, but caught.
Well, yeah, and fined.
Yeah.
And she still somehow keeps getting elected.
Because that's Philadelphia. That's Philadelphia. Right, Alex? It is what it is.
I just got a headache, you guys.
Oh, please.
It's amazing.
You know,
It's Flunkadelphia.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, all of you poor Philadelphia residents, but everybody else in the surrounding counties knows. It's
Well, I mean, and we've been kind of hammering this lady on Twitter for the past week now.
as we should.
She's actually engaged and responded a couple times, and one of her responses was, it's not, because, we've been hitting her about shame on you for taxing something that's saving people's lives and blah, blah, blah. She comes back and says, this is not about cigarettes versus e-cigarettes. This is about generating money for our schools, period.
Yep, it's all about the money.
Do they have the lottery in Philly?
The Pennsylvania lottery, yeah.
That goes to the elderly.
Yes.
It doesn't go to schools?
No.
No.
Oh, because in California, when the lottery came in back in the day, when I was a younger man, less than I am now, that's how they got the lottery passed, because the money was going to go to the children.
But you know what, Jim? The lottery money does not go to the children, but neither does the money that's designated for the children go to the children. So, it's a problem. It's a problem.
Oh my God!
I lived there. I lived in the city for 13 years and had to get out. Just had to get out. But I'm still close by. Worked in the city. Went to nursing school in the city. It's just a mess. Trying to keep my language clean here. It's a fucked up city.
Okay.
Now, at least the Eagles are a good football team, right?
Sometimes.
Oh no, they suck too.
Okay, so we've had enough with Philly bashing, but there's actually a couple of other topics here that I wanted to bring out, and so people understand what we do is we found out about this particular um, ordinance being introduced, and the first thing that we do as the militia is we try to find a willing participant in the area that is willing to step forward and help us coordinate some efforts. And by absolute sheer coincidence, we found our willing participant by looking at our own board, and Robin she raised her hand and said, "I'm all over it. I'll jump right in." So we do appreciate her effort stepping forward as a militia member and jumping in and doing the right thing. And in case some people are wondering what we do with this, obviously we go and hit Facebook and Twitter and every other social media aspect that we can to get the word out and get people talking about it. And then what we do is we take advantage of that volunteer and we get them a list of stores so they can make phone calls. Now, I've been on the calling end of this, and I know what happens. But Robin, now that you've been on the calling end, what type of response did you get as you called the vape stores? Was everybody willing to run to City Hall that day?
No. Unfortunately, they were not. I got some people that were sort of responsive, but kind of said, well, we'll do that later because this isn't actually a hearing today. They did not want to go unless there was a hearing because it was just other people talking and they felt like they wouldn't be able to have anything to say, that they wouldn't be given that opportunity. The other thing is that, and I'll bring up one in particular. I will not mention the name of the store, okay, but it's in the city. The guy has 3 stores. I happened to just pick the one that was closest to my house, and when I called, I got a guy who told me he was the general manager, and when I told him I'd like to speak with the store owner, he said, you don't want to talk to him. He's not here anyway. He's at one of the other stores, but you don't want to talk to him because he just doesn't want anything from anybody. He doesn't want to get involved in anything. He doesn't want to have to do anything, and I said, if he doesn't do anything soon, he won't have a store in Philadelphia to worry about, but
No, wait a minute. Why will we not say the name of that store?
Do you really want me to?
We really
I don't know,
shouldn't
Joe.
yet, because we'll give them a chance to redeem themselves.
Okay.
You want me to?
No,
No.
not
You want me
yet.
to wait? Okay. But he said, actually what he said to me was, the guy's a bastard, Robin. You sound like a really nice person. I don't want you to even talk to him. So, I did not talk to him.
So, but what did the GM say?
He sounds like he wants to help. Actually took my phone number. I told him I'll be in touch. He said, I'll call you. I said, no, I'll call you, darling. And I will, especially as we get closer. But, he said he will go down to City Hall when it's time. But the other thing is, I started posting stuff on Facebook in the different groups, and I'm an admin on a couple of them. And so I posted stuff. I actually posted something that shows you in all the districts, and there's a lot of them in Philly, who the council person is for each one, because that can be confusing if you don't know. So I found it online, posted it there. It's got their pictures, their name, their everything, and I got a couple of likes, but what I mostly got was right after I posted that, a bunch of hand checks and how do you like my new mod and all that kind of crap. So, it's a little upsetting, to be honest with you, but that's what I got. That's what I got.
So it's a little, I know it can be a little disheartening, when we go and put forth the effort, or anybody that, you're a militia board member, so you've seen it, but let's take this little step further to somebody who finally decides they're going to step up and make a difference in advocacy, and this is the type of response the community gives them. Just not a good thing.
No.
And that is, Joe, that is the whole, that goes right back to what we as consumers can do. The militia and our militia people can make the phone calls, but it's you as the consumers, right, Joe, that you guys need to go into these shops and hammer these shop owners and say, hey, what the heck are you doing for us, at these local levels? Philadelphia is talking about $5 tax on every transaction. Is that the way? A maximum of $5 tax on every.
On liquid.
on liquid, okay?
Plus, if you buy,
Per liquid.
that's on devices. That's on devices. The $2 is on. Wait, no. I'm sorry. It's the $2 on devices, and there's $5 on a bottle of juice. But if you buy 5 bottles of juice, is there $5 on every bottle?
Could be.
I don't know.
It's per item. It's just like any
per
other
item.
tax. So it's
Okay.
it's 50 cents per milliliter.
Wow.
Okay.
So basically,
So-
as a consumer, you go in and buy a new mod and 2 30 ml bottles of juice. You have had to reach into your pocket for an extra $12 for the children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And let's get this straight. Let's make sure everybody gets the picture 100%. It's not the store owner who's going to pay that $2 per device. And it's not the store owner that's going to pay that $5 per bottle. It's going to be the consumer.
Yeah.
So, so those people that are in the Philadelphia area that are thinking a hand check is the correct response to calling your representative, could you be a little more screwed up?
Robin, I hate to put more work on you, darling, but have we built an email list out of that website that you got yet that we can just start mass emailing and and get emails to them all at the same time?
No, I still have to get that because for whatever reason that site doesn't have the emails. Gee, I wonder why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're
I still
looking,
need that all
you're looking
together.
for emails for city council?
For all the separate members of the council. The site that I saw had phone numbers, fax numbers, everything but the email. So I still have to put that together.
Our friends at CASA might be able to help
may-
you out with that.
Yeah, I'll see what I can
Thank you,
dig.
Alex.
As is the case with a lot of places, and actually our software doesn't have the capability to do this at the city level, but a lot of city council people are using that kind of that form that you have to fill out so that they weed out people who are not constituents. So it's a lot of times it's just you have to fill in your name and address and email, and they won't hear you unless you live in their district. Which is another thing. I just started reading this book because despite my title, I don't have a lot of experience talking face to face with lawmakers.
By the way, I downloaded that book this week, Alex. Go ahead.
I forget which one it is. It's on my
Citizen activist.
The gentleman, citizen activist.
Citizen activist, yeah. And so, one thing, really to look out for is, and I know that it's disheartening. It makes me sad to hear all of the hand check stories and the general I don't really give a shit kind of things. But, in all of this outreach, there's got to be at least one person in this woman's district, or just one resident of Philadelphia that is at least willing to go along. They don't even have to talk. They just have to be a verifiable city resident. And you or another advocate can go and have a meeting with these city councilors and speak. And that voter doesn't really even have to do anything. The fact that they're there and that they are nodding their head and agreeing with the e-cig folks, that sends a pretty heavy enough message, I think, that residents are paying attention to this stuff, and they'll vote with their dollars, they'll vote with their votes. For what that's worth in Philadelphia.
And the other thing too is I know there's a lot of people who think that we have some people that in our industry that are willing to come forward and speak for us, and many people know who they are, who those individuals are, and and sometimes the stores will spend money to bring those people in. But one of the things we are seeing lately is the city councils look at these people like they're carpetbaggers, that they're paid, they're paid to do this. But it's a totally different thing if you're an educated enough vapor and you have a friend that's in the Philly area and you're willing to go with them, and you're not one of those recognizable names, but you're knowledgeable, you can help out in that way. So if you're in Pennsylvania, you can help out these people that are in Philadelphia very easily. So, and then the other thing that I wanted to talk about was, again, we've said this before, and those of you that are listening to us, make sure that the stores that you patronize keep an accurate customer list with an email list, because if we had that in the Philadelphia area, we would be talking directly to all the customers of these stores and being able to tell them, give them information so that they can come forward. So again, we as an industry need to start making some standard practices, and one of those is keeping an available email list that we can actually use to send information out like this. Because this thing's going to be one there. Go ahead, Alex.
Sorry. Yeah, just to maybe further get into the mechanics of this for us, especially in Philadelphia's case, when this gets a little further down the line, we'll be releasing a call to action for people. And, if I could send that link, if somebody could send that link out to a vendor, they could then pass that on to their email database of customers. Once those customers, which is typically about 5%, once they participate in that action plan, now they're a CASA member. You've kind of done double duty. You're bolstering the ranks of the national advocacy group and getting, in touch with your lawmakers. So.
Yeah. So, and the earlier we get in there and start talking to them, the earlier they realize what we're trying to do. So, and that's a good thing. We want them to know what we're doing. All right. Any other comments on Philadelphia before we go on?
And to all of our Philadelphia friends, I apologize for being so harsh on Philadelphia. I love the city. I love the food. I just hate the politics.
Mm.
And the parking authority.
And a couple other things.
Oh God, I got so many tickets in Italy, you guys. You're not gonna believe it. They have these cameras, and you know what? You're doing 5 miles over, the 5 kilometers over, they drill you.
Wow.
So while we're talking about money, let's go to another topic about money. There was a Times article that came out that was talking about how the master settlement plan went wrong, and this is something that Jim was kind of going a little bit on too. For those of you who may not be aware, I put the link in chat. Back in '98, the tobacco industry and 46 states signed the Master Settlement Agreement, and the Master Settlement Agreement guaranteed a minimum of $206 billion over the first 25 years for the infractions that the tobacco industry did in its advertising methods. Okay? And we've talked about these a few times before, but one of the things that a lot of people still aren't aware of is this is money that was given to the states, and many of them took that money and invested it in these bonds. And because of the current climate in the consumer area, the number of people that are buying cigarettes and that are now contributing to this fund has dropped severely. And this is one of the reasons why we see these bills that we've been seeing lately, like in Philadelphia, where they're trying to find money that they had been getting from tobacco settlements and have been using in their general funds to be able to support themselves. So a lot of people are a little confused on where this money came from and why all of these states are suddenly trying to figure out how they're going to find more money from different places. And one of the things that was in this bill, and Jim was talking about it, was under the smoker education, to supposedly, if you educate the smokers well enough using the money that they pay in their cigarettes, then they'll choose not to smoke anymore. Well, the problem comes in is if that's effective, and if e-cigarettes weren't effective as another method of people going away, then they wouldn't be looking for these monies.
Mm-hmm.
God.
I have a question.
Sure.
Does anybody know a single smoker out there who thinks that what they're doing is healthy? I mean, like, how much anti-tobacco, anti-smoking advertising actually need to pay for?
Yeah, you would think.
Maybe that's a stupid question.
Joe, did you read the specific numbers in these things?
Oh yeah, they're ridiculous.
Oh my God, the 12 of the people chose to issue capital appreciation bonds, which defers all payments for up to 50 years. That means the people that gave the money, the interest that they guaranteed on these bonds will be paid in 50 years. The 12 groups in there issued $22.6 billion in bonds, but they have to sell them at a discount to get anybody to buy them because people are worried that they're going to get payment back. So they sold $22.6 billion in bonds for $573 million. God, that's not even that's what, 2%, or
Yeah.
20, not even 20%. And at the end of 50 years, they're going to have to pay back $67 billion.
Yeah,
This
this
will
is a shell
bankrupt
game.
this will bankrupt these states or these cities that did this. You know, and the example they give is that's like you, and let's take it to something that might be reasonably understood by the consumer. Is you going out and buying a $200,000 house today, and in 40 or 50 years your kids are going to pay for that house for you, and they've got to come up with a one-time payment of $234 million.
Yes.
For that $200,000 house. That's how stupid this is. That's how mismanaged this money was done. And some of the states went even further. Michigan will have to pay back more than 1,800 times of what it borrowed.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So this it's just so that people get the idea of, number one, when this money came through, the method that it was given to the states was given to them in such an insane manner. It was almost as if they never thought there would be any effective tool to have people quit smoking at all.
I'm wait a minute, I'm smacking my head. Oh my God. You've got to be kidding.
Wonder if this will make a case somewhere for, you think there'll be some debt forgiveness for this, or are people going to come out and say, we can't do that, or the freeloaders will just take over the world?
It's
Well, one of
just
these days
being, when you look at how they did it and the method behind it, I mean, it helps you drive the point of why these states are so money hungry, why their budgets are so mismanaged as they are.
Yeah, it is just freaking ridiculous.
And it does beg one question. So e-cigarettes look like smoking, so that's why we're going to tax it, right? But is that really the end of it?
No, it's not. It will not.
I think you could also kind of make the case for smokers as a class of people being so kind of bullied into these restrictions and punitive taxes and so on, and just, I know how I felt as a smoker after, watching the indoor smoke-free air law coming through in Pennsylvania and moving to New Jersey and seeing it here, just all around me in the Northeast. The area that I could smoke in is constantly shrinking. And it gets to a point where you sort of internalize that and say, I'm a bad person, I smoke, and I guess I kind of deserve the ill treatment, whatever. I'm just speaking from my own experience. But to some extent, I don't think that's too far off the mark for the rest of the smoking population out there. So, in a sense, there's some politicians up there that look at this class of people as just easy prey. We're not going to come out and vote against it. We feel like we probably deserve it. Just look what the problems we have with gathering people to get involved with advocacy. Smokers' rights groups are not really the most powerful or popular advocacy groups out there.
Not at all.
Vapers, I think.
No.
in a very similar boat.
And when we look at this too, I mean, just take for instance, the single pack of cigarettes. We've been over this 100 times. You know, if let's not even go to the insane numbers that you get in New York City, but I mean, in the state of Michigan, people are paying well over $6 a pack for a product that costs $2. The wholesale cost is $2.
Yeah.
And what other product produced has that tax revenue on it?
Well, we just need to remember, tobacco is the oldest taxed commodity in America. Was the first commodity that was ever taxed. People like to say, well, wait a minute, what about the tea tax? But as Joe, our historian, most accurately points out, the tea tax was not a tax, it was a tariff, and that's what we were fighting, the tariff. Tobacco is the oldest taxed commodity in the country. It has been taxed since the get-go, and it's just more and more and more and more, and it's for the sake of health, it's for the sake of the children, but you know what, if it was for the sake of health, they'd be spending more money on getting people healthy rather than putting all that 90% or 95 or 99% of the money they get into the general budget. And they've come to rely on taxes on tobacco as at least number 4 or higher income generator in their states. Oregon said it publicly, it's on public record. Tobacco revenue is the number 4 cash generator in the state.
Yeah, and we've seen that throughout everything we've looked at, and I do want to caution people that we are nearing the end of 2014, and almost all the legislative sessions have closed up, and no one at any capital is holding up a piece of paper that says anything about new taxes, because in just a few short days there will be elections, and when you're talking about elections, you don't talk about taxes.
Nope.
Because people don't vote for people that talk about taxes.
Have you noticed how cheap gas is right now?
Mm-hmm.
Because elections are coming.
Because elections are coming. Every single freaking. No. I tweeted or Instagram day before yesterday, Alex, $2.74 in Minnesota. Now,
Wow.
I'm old enough. I'm going to be 54 on Tuesday, folks. I'm an old man. I'm older than dirt. I'm so old I have a half-life. I got all the old jokes. Okay, but I remember 35 cents a gallon gas. 1970, it was 35 cents a gallon. The beginning of the gas prices. It went up to 65 cents in 1970. I remember that. I was as happy as I could be when I looked down and saw $2.74 for gas. Now it was at Costco, so obviously, I pay a membership, and so I get a little bit cheaper gas there. But still, $2.74 at the regular gas pumps. I've seen $2.87 at the non-member stations. I mean, it hasn't been this cheap since 2 years ago before that election.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So. But what that does mean also is come January, or actually probably mid-December, didn't we figure somewhere in there, Alex? Probably mid-December.
About what?
When we'll start seeing the proposed new legislation coming out. Could be as early as mid-December.
We'll start seeing the people talking about it now, unless, Joe, they do like New York did, and they hold it behind closed doors until the moment before they have to announce it.
Well, New York is a little bit different because of the way that particular state's legislature works. Because of how their session works is a little bit different. But many of the states, they're not quite as capable of doing that style. So you're going to see proposed bills probably as early as December that are going to clearly state their intention for taxing.
And if you don't see it, then everything everything has to get introduced and then assigned to a committee, and every state has that process as far as I know.
Yep.
Right.
It's not like city councils. The city councils can give you 24 hours notice, depending on the state and local laws. And of course, just like what New York did last year with the whole indoor vaping ban, they, there was all that trickery, that whatever procedural magic, and then they lumped it in with the Christmas party. So there's that kind of threat that this whole flavor thing might happen just like that. But that's city. That's not state.
Yep.
Let's take the other side of this discussion, Joe, and I want to be very frank, because I'm in corporate America, and I know that Alex working with CASA, and CASA's position is no tax. We're going to get taxed. So what would we be willing to pay on a 30 milliliter bottle of juice? And I saw Robin shake her beautiful head up and down. And so, and Patrick's saying no. But I mean, what is there a number that is a fair number, knowing that we're not going to get away with it?
There's already a tax on it, sales tax.
Okay.
Any additional tax to this product, or any product that has a sin tax, essentially,
right,
on this product is offensive.
Agreed. But I think we're going to have it anyway.
I agree. Obviously I agree with that, and that's not just the party line. I find all taxes offensive. I'm a libertarian to the max. I'm a conspiratorialist to the max. I think Ebola was planned. But we're gonna, do we try to get ahead of this and say, well, hey, what's the right number?
I mean, there's no right number. If you give them $1, they're going to take your whole wallet. That's right. That's the way this works. I'm curious to see what happens in North Carolina. That's the example, I think, that people would, supporting kind of what you're asking, that's what they would bring up, is that, and that's just a sort of a token kind of, we know that, these products are going to take smoking rates down, and you're not going to make a lot of money off the cigarettes anymore. So here, we'll give you 5 cents per milliliter to kind of offset that loss. The way that was presented to the legislature, and that whole argument feels very compensatory and legitimate. But now the language is there.
Yeah.
So it's so much easier for the legislature to come back next session and say, 7.5 cents. That sounds a lot better. And 10 years down the line, it's $1.
Right.
When was the last time that you saw a state legislature jump up and say, "Oh, by the way, I know you've been paying 35 cents on the dollar for gas, but we're getting it cheaper, so I think we'll just cut it down to a quarter."
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
No.
Yeah. By the way, Florida Smoking says I'm a fucking idiot. He's out of here. Didn't come here to listen to this bullshit. Just want to let everybody know that he thinks I'm a fucking idiot. So I thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And we're glad that you don't want to listen to this bullshit, because I'm hoping that somewhere along the line you'll realize that if we don't talk about it, there are people in our state capitals that will talk about it, and you won't be a part of that either. So feel free.
And as you can tell, I'm truly I'm a little verklempt and heartbroken.
Melissa, please don't ever purge. Not during our show. Just let it be there. If someone wants to be stupid, let it be in the open.
And I'm truly, as you can tell by my persona, I'm hurt that I got called a fucking idiot. Wait a minute, is that? No, that's not a tear. Sorry.
But anyway, but like I'm saying here is I guess my biggest problem is, the justification that they use. I personally would have to be given a justification that I believe in, and I don't believe that there's any reason that this product should offset the cost because cigarettes killed people. I just don't.
Right.
No. And, you know, the lame excuse that they need it for some other purpose, is there any other product that they specifically tax to raise money for something other than that product?
Well, I'd be willing to talk about some products that perhaps should be taxed.
Well, I mean, I've lived in places that had a fast food tax. 2% in addition to normal sales tax, which covered all fast food.
Does any of that money go back to the fast food workers?
No, that money actually goes back to the schools.
So they're not. So the fast food workers, they don't get any money for being exposed to secondhand fast food.
No. But they do. Most fast food restaurants give their employees at least a discount.
Yeah.
I mean, if you and I know it's a bad topic to hit, but if you look at the obesity rates in the U.S., there's some argument there.
I mean, if certain localities that want to tax stuff to make money for their kids wants to tax a product that would possibly, you know, save their cookies and raise them a lot of money, I would imagine, especially in Philly, that they could probably make a lot of frickin' money by a 2% sales tax on all fast food.
You know, the thing is, though, and Patrick, is, you know, and that's an accurate statement, what everybody in government, they're thinking about the here and now. Okay, we need to get this money now. What is it going to be like in 10 years when we have 10, you know, when our industry is 20 years old, you know, because e-cigs have been around for 10 years, and we're starting to see the results of less people going into healthcare. What was that, you know, less people using medical hospitals because of tobacco-related illnesses? What's the effect going to be in the economy then? I mean, obviously then the hospital will be bitching because they're not making enough money. But, you know, I just think it is very short-sighted this whole discussion on the sin tax of this incredible disruptive technology.
Yeah.
I don't think I actually, you know, and going back to the original question, I still don't think there is an excise tax that is appropriate. You know, I take that back. I think I could think of a specific reason why I would actually support a tax. You tell me that tax is going to fund to finish the studies on this particular product to bring it mainstream, I'm in.
Oh yeah.
If you can still you can crowdfund that.
Hold on. Alex, I love your little libertarian heart.
I'm not flying their flag either. They can all piss off as far as I'm concerned. Nobody's got it right. So yeah, you can roll that back.
Yeah.
The gay community can set up a lemonade stand and raise that money. I don't need language in the state law to tell me to fund a study.
So that study. So let's take the twist on that. Where does that study belong, Alex?
What do you mean?
Who should be the moderator of that study?
What do you mean by moderator?
Who should be the individual that's pushing that story, that particular study forward?
You mean in terms of the scientists, or who the money comes from?
Or the responsible entity for obtaining that money.
Folks, I'll be right back. I'm going to step away.
Okay.
Well, I mean, there's arguments for and against who, you know, to some extent, industry is in the best place to raise that money. Consumers, I think, should always have a hand in either raising that money and you know, I think monitoring or putting their name on it somehow. You know, this came from the primary stakeholders in these products. I think that the federal government could probably chip in as well. They're the ones asking for these studies. They've got millions of dollars at their disposal. I mean, what the National Institute of Health just allocated, what, $11 million or 40, some outrageous amount of money to study e-cigs here and there, and they're sending that money to institutions that some of us, I think, are a little bit questionable as to the quality of the studies that are going to be done.
Yeah, I thought that the one study that was looking at Facebook to find out how we use the devices sounded kind of that sounds a little wishy-washy to me.
It's not too far off the mark of the what was it, Prue Talbot and the other people at UCSF that mined YouTube for information.
Yeah.
How many tens of thousands of dollars did that one cost? You could do another Burston study for that.
Easily. That's just some things that we should think about. I just want to throw it out there, let people wrap their brains around a few different concepts on it. So everybody but Jim is pretty much against tax. So we will have Jim keelhauled over this, and
there should be no punishment for playing devil's advocate. If that's what it ends up being.
That's true.
Well,
but someone should definitely follow him around if he's going to go.
Okay.
Legislature for session.
I suggest a shock collar program every time he says tax.
Sounds like
Biker Granny had mentioned in one of the chats about the WHO sending their recommendation for a global tax on all tobacco products.
Yeah. That's an interesting. When I read that, the only thing I think of was when the UN tried to do the handgun thing, how the NRA was completely over the top. I'm sure public health jumped behind this one.
Yeah, but since it was done behind closed doors, they had escorted all the press and all the public out. We don't exactly know what was said during that meeting, but luckily the United States is not a signatory to that framework convention treaty thing, so we're not required to adhere.
Actually, even the member states, if I remember the way Biker Granny wrote that is correct, it's a recommendation. It's not whatever I read. It's worded in a way that there's no punishment. I mean, the World Health Organization isn't they really don't have any authority. It's kind of funny. They can make recommendations all day long, but it seems that people can choose whether or not to listen to them. It's not to downplay the amount of harm that this can cause, because their voices do carry weight.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very absurd kind of situation.
Did you follow Jeff and Clive on what was going on over there, and all the fact that anytime anybody disagreed with what was going on, they basically pinned him to the ground and drug him out of the building, and there was no public comment, there was no public anybody watching it. Anytime the press tried to ask questions, they basically drug him out of the room. Did you see that?
Not to that extent. From what I heard, or what I had read, is it a former advisor, one of Gaddafi's former advisors was the guy that kind of stood up and kind of quashed dissent when they were talking about closing the doors to the press. I think some of the member countries might have tried to speak up and say, no, the press needs to be here, and he was like, nope, we're voting now, and they're gone.
Well, Uganda also was quite adamant too.
Yeah, that's crazy. By the way, Big Ace in New York asked, he's from New York, and asked what he can do to help. Obviously, Patrick put the link in there for the call to action for the flavor ban. And if you want to contact somebody, Big Ace, Joe, would he contact Cheryl and Chris down at Cherry Vapes?
I need to know what part of New York.
Okay.
In New York City?
Yeah, New York City obviously is where we have help need right now, Big Ace. So if you're near the city, that's we'll get you the right organization.
Well, let's take this discussion to a different area. There was a long discussion that we had on Thursday night, I think it was, about some interesting posts that we saw on Facebook concerning vapors etiquette. And I know a few people had a few comments that they were going to make about that. And the particular instance that we were all looking at was there was an individual who was apparently somewhere in New York City, or it looked like New York City, and they said that they had been approached and asked not to vape, so their radical selves decided to jump up and say, sorry, it's my right, I'll do what I want to. And then there were even further posts that said, yeah, we turned that place into a regular cloud competition, and how happy they were about what they had done.
Yeah, Joe, and we should talk about that. There recently was a couple of letters and that were written in time.com, and I thought they were both of them were actually quite poignant letters. And yes, I said poignant, and yes, I know how to spell it, and it's a wonderful word. But the first one was called An Open Letter to the Person Smoking Their E-Cigarette Indoors. And, this kind of goes back to what you and I have been saying for a year, vape polite and vape responsibly. Just because the first letter that came out on October 3rd, really kind of, made me think about this because, I practice civil disobedience. I intentionally vape in places that I'm not supposed to, but I don't vape. When I do that, I don't do that to be obnoxious or obstinate to those around me. I do it just to, in all honesty, hopefully get a ticket one of these days. But this person wrote on xojane.com, "Dear person smoking their e-cigarette next to me in this coffee shop, I really hate your e-cigarette," and I'll put the link in the room. "I'm really proud of you for taking steps." Did you put it in there? Okay. To quit smoking, and yes, I would much rather you vape than smoke. Smoking is terrible, and I'm not calling for a sweeping ban of e-cigs. But she talks in this letter about, listen, it still has she knows that it's a vapor, and she knows that it's safer, and she knows all these things, but it doesn't give that person in the coffee shop next to her the right to be rude and to blow these big clouds and at her. Now, and we as the militia have taken a lot of grief because we didn't have a cloud competition at our Vape Expo event at the Vape Expo event in Michigan. But you know what? Folks, we're doing this for our health. We're doing this because we want to get off cigarettes. We don't have to be dicks about this and get all obstinate and have a freaking cloud competition in a place where we're vaping. I can honestly say, and I've been vaping for over a year, going on a year and a half or so, that I've only been asked not to vape in a location one time, and even when I'm vaping indoors, I will lean over to the table next to me and say, "Hey, do you guys mind if I have a vape?" on both sides to make sure that I'm not, encroaching upon their space. Just because I have the right to inhale a vapor doesn't mean, and I think, Joe, you said this first, I love it, does not mean I have the right to exhale. Because I could be imposing, I could be going against what somebody else next to me wants, or for whatever health reasons doesn't want. And so, I really think this discussion on etiquette is important.
Over and over again, I've been in places where, I will specifically ask for seating outside, even if we're allowed to vape inside, if I've got a device that's a little bit cloudy. And a number of times I've sat out there with my friends, and we may sit out there 2 or 3 hours having beer, talking about what's going on. And I cannot think of a single time that anyone's even approached us in a negative manner, because when we
Right.
go in, we've asked if we could already, and it's actually been kind of interesting to find the responses from people of, well, that really smells good, or that, or I was surprised that it didn't stink, which was, I guess, kind of a backhanded comment to the flavors that we were using. But the one thing is, when I am in a closed space, I don't mind dropping the airflow on my device and not really producing big clouds. And I don't understand why people feel that the very right that allows a businessman to make that decision to allow you to vape is the same right that allows that same businessman to approach your table and say, "I'm sorry, I prefer you not do that here." I mean, it's the same right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And
So,
and and I guess I missed that discussion, Joey. So I mean, in the beginning, you said that there was a bunch of people in a place, they got asked not to do it, and then they just went off on the guy and started blowing huge clouds. Is that
yep,
that happened?
yep, that's what they did, or that's what they said they did.
I'm smacking my head.
Yeah.
God.
And
You know,
there's
we
if you go for it, Robin brought up a real good point. Is now imagine what's going to happen when an ordinance comes to their town. If you want to pick up from there, Robin, do you remember what we were talking about?
No.
No. She's the point she brought out was as sure as soon as a public ordinance comes out, that if we go in there and aggravate them to that point, it's very probable that that's going to be the very person that's going to be standing in front of that city council saying, "Yeah, prohibit it. Go ahead and ban it," because these guys don't listen anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just
I
make
don't
them
have any
mad.
control.
It just makes it bad for the rest of us, you know?
I mean,
Well,
we have
we've
enough
seen-
enemies already.
Yeah, we've seen ordinances come through, and in the the newspaper articles that are discussing why they're doing this or why it's on the agenda or where it came from, and these city councils or mayors are all bunches of them are all saying stuff like, well, we've had a lot of complaints about people vaping in the school library or in the public library or in the middle of the Safeway. There's no reason for you to ever need to vape in the library.
Yeah, no, you know what? I mean, when we were smoking, we would go 2 hours, 3 hours without a cigarette, right?
Yeah.
You know, and now all of a sudden we can't go 40 minutes or an hour without a vape.
Yeah, I don't vape anywhere I didn't smoke. I just don't, unless we're in a place, when we were at one of the conventions, there was a place where they said it was okay to vape inside. So obviously we did, like in a restaurant. But other than that, no, I don't vape anywhere that I wouldn't have smoked. Just out of courtesy.
I vape in every airport around the world, and I take pictures and post them. Hashtag civil disobedience.
Oh. Wow. No, I do not do that.
Yeah, no, you know what, and that is taking vape polite and vape responsibly to its ultimate, ultimate place. I mean, we have every right to try to get healthy, but we don't have every right to put our rights in front of somebody else's rights. And I loved what I think Joe said it first. And it's one of my favorite sayings of all time. I have every right in the world to inhale into my body whatever I want to inhale. I have zero right to exhale it into somebody else's space.
Yep.
Well, and we've heard stories from other people that there are people that are sensitive to certain things, that have allergies or whatever, and that they've had firsthand experience that certain flavor combinations, or for example, peanut and peanut butter flavors, has given them a physical reaction.
Oh yeah, I mean this whole peanut
If you're
allergy.
vaping somewhere and somebody is nearby that it has a a very big sensitivity or allergy, you are technically assaulting them. You're affecting their air quality and causing them to have an allergic reaction.
You know, I love I love I don't super sub ohm, but I love blowing big clouds as much as the next person. I think that we've just taken it too far, and the fact that so many people measure their manhood by the size of their cloud, and it's become a freaking sport. You know what? It's not about that. It's not. This is not about that. This is about about changing our lives and about changing the lives of other smokers. With our own experience, strength, and hope. And if you recognize those words, good on you. But we have our own experience, strength, and hope because of what we've done with e-cigarettes and personal vaporizers. And but we've got a very, very, very small but very visual group here that have taken it upon themselves to push it to the limit. And you know what? Push it to the limit in the right location. But don't listen. I try to live in my life by this one small saying: Jim, don't be a dick. And just don't be a dick. God. Patrick smiled. I love that.
Alex, you've been quiet.
He has been quiet.
I think you guys have done a good job with this. I have mixed emotions about different topics that come up in this discussion, but I've watched. I have myself. I've watched Julie vape in restaurants. We don't ask permission. We're just discreet about it, and it's to inhale. I'm not exhaling anything. Nobody's going to see anything. We're not provoking any kind of encounter with staff or patrons next to us. It's just, there's just a way to do it without raising eyebrows and freaking people out. And, that's, I think, something that everybody should really learn about. And for myself, when I'm in situations where I can't vape and I don't really want to deal with anybody else's bullshit, I use snus. So, there are plenty of smoke-free options out there. If you're the type of person that can't spend 45 minutes in a library or a grocery store, then just take something else in with you. Chew a piece of nicotine gum. I don't care. You just don't need to walk through the frozen food section blowing huge towers of vapor. But as much as I agree that the conversation tends to stray into that territory of, hey, you guys are ruining for the rest of us. You're going to be the source of an indoor vaping ban in this town and whatnot. I guess I can go kind of both ways with that point. On one hand, what you guys are saying, I haven't read this article about these people in New York, but if that happens in one community, smaller, it doesn't matter the size, that business owner will possibly show up to city council or talk to their city council person and say, hey, I had these idiots in my restaurant and they just ignored me, and so we need a law for this. That's a likely scenario.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're blowing clouds outside or in the restaurant. The laws are coming. It's partially accurate to say some kids are ruining it for the rest of us, but I think it's more accurate to say it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how polite you are. These laws are coming. You should be polite anyway, because that's the nice neighborly thing to do. But it's part of that grander scheme. We talked about this a lot, I think, earlier this year. The setting up these products as evil allows them to justify things like taxes and other onerous regulation, burdensome regulation. So, yeah, I like I said, I was quiet because I feel like I'm just confusing the discussion now. But
No, actually, you're not, Alex. Your point is very well spoken. Whether or not, and very succinctly spoken, whether or not we're we're rude or not, the laws are coming. But you know what? I guess it comes down to just being a human being. Why be rude, right?
yeah,
I mean, I agree with you that the laws are coming, but I do believe that the representation of the product and how people perceive the product will affect some places. There will be some places that, if the council has not heard of the product, if it hasn't been a problem for them, the option to vote against it, if given a good case in front of them, is there. However, I can guarantee you that if it's a nuisance product, doesn't matter what argument that is given, if that person feels that it's a nuisance, their mind will be made up.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
yeah, and I've seen this in a couple of different opinion pieces written, and it seems to be one of the themes that the antis like to spit out there. With all the fun that people are having with these things, how can you possibly say that this is about harm reduction?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw one of those.
I mean, it really is a bullshit perspective, but I mean, they can make that case.
Yeah, don't you know that the only thing that's good for you either leaves you with sore muscles or tastes bad, right?
Right. It's cardboard and beige. That's the only thing that's going to help you.
Wait a minute. I'm drinking kombucha. I'm told that kombucha is good for me. Okay, so
Kombucha's delicious.
and yeah, my wife makes it. She's got the whole growing the scobies and the mothers and the daughters and all this chemistry, and I'm drinking kombucha right now, homemade.
Nice.
I think I'll just have a beer.
Yeah, that's pretty much covers it for me there. So, kind of staying in the same area just a little bit. One of the types of cigarette regulations that gained some ground on the West Coast is coming back. This time focused at e-cigarettes. Okay, in the San Mateo area, we just finished dealing with a public ban there, and now we're looking at a possible multi-family dwelling.
Yeah, I mean those have been hitting us
Oops, that's
periodically.
the wrong link. That's the wrong link. I grabbed the wrong link. Hang on.
Yeah, we've already got multi-family dwelling bans in California, in cities across California already.
And we have them all over the country. This is not a new thing. It's just that it's not as common that these are coming up. But yeah, we've been seeing these off and on. In duplexes, apartment complexes, condominiums, anywhere that has shared interior walls or ceilings, and if their ventilation system is combined.
I had a very unusual experience
Hotels.
with this particular instance. I actually got a phone call from a person in San Mateo. And normally when we get a phone call, it's a phone call for someone asking for support in helping to fight the ban, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this was not so. This was actually a person who was trying to explain to me that our information must be wrong because what she was experiencing indicated that this must be harmful, because every time the people next door used their e-cigarette, she was coughing and the whole 9 yards. And I was
You got a
asking
call?
her.
Actually, someone called you about that.
Actually called me, yes.
Wow.
Vaping Militia's got a telephone number, that we put on the website, and this person
Right.
called that telephone number, and I returned her call. So I was it kind of surprised me, and I was really surprised at, number one, her insistence that it was harming her, you know, and I was asking her what the symptoms were that she was dealing with, and how it affected her, and if she'd asked them to, you know, maybe do it in a certain area or anything like that. And the one thing that I found that was very interesting was this particular person, after a long discussion about, you know, what we've got as for physical evidence of it not being harmful or anything like that, and I'd ask her if she'd gone over and spoken to her neighbors, the first thing out of her mouth was, "How could I do that?"
Well, how does she know that they're actually doing? How does she know that they're actually vaping when she's having symptoms?
Well,
She's never knocked on the door.
And you know, and I'm confused about how it even spreads. I mean, we know that the vapor doesn't attach itself to anything carbon-based. We know that the vapor is heavier than air, so it falls to the ground. I'm confused on how it even gets into a common ventilation system, or even gets or penetrates 2 layers of drywall and insulation. You know, I would love to. You know, I mean, she has no science to base on anything that she's saying.
Yeah, it was an awkward conversation for me, because I was trying to find out what the problem was. I was trying to give her as much help as I could, and you know, and it was just it was kind of interesting to hear somebody from that side of the street telling me, you know, every time they use it, I'm coughing and my eyes cloud up, and I'm like, wow. There's just there's nothing that supports that. Have you asked them to change flavors? No, I haven't talked to them. Oh my God.
We were at Vape Expo, Joe, and it was on Saturday, and a local hockey team showed up, kids hockey team, and the coach was walking through the hall, and 4 or 5 of us were in the hall talking, having a vape, and the coach is walking through. He goes, and
Wow.
I said, "Oh, excuse me, sir. I'm sorry." I had to chuckle.
And again, they see something and they react to it, but
Yeah, but at that point in time, even though we were in a vape event, even though, have you seen the pictures, the clouds were immense, I put my mod down until that group walked by. Trying to be polite, and I apologize. Sorry I bothered you. I'm shaking. I'm just shaking my head.
okay, on the advocacy, let's talk about this particular article. We've been given a new title. I don't know if everybody's aware. As in the many things that we are, vapors and activists and human beings and everything else, and we are now considered by public health to be AstroTurf.
We are AstroTurf.
We are AstroTurf, yes, we are.
We are AstroTurf.
I am, okay, I've never been called AstroTurf before.
It's a first for me as well.
If I were on the
so
jet,
proud of this.
if I were on the Jetsons, would I be RastroTurf?
Could
Probably.
be. I mean, actually, this is a hallmark. If you think about it, if we think about this in the right perspective, is apparently our activism efforts and advocacy efforts have gotten to the point that the public health community now considers us so organized that we must be being paid by industry for our advocacy.
I love this.
Here's my paycheck.
I know, right? And I don't know about you guys, but I've been called much worse before. Wow.
Okay, for those of you who may not be aware, here's a history lesson for you. Is back during the the anti-smoking laws, when they were originally passing laws trying to stop smoking throughout the United States, there were a few companies, and I think, Knock, you had the actual numbers and the names, right?
Oh, yes. Give me a minute.
Okay.
Keep talking.
So Imperial and Reynolds and a few other companies were actually paying PR firms, and some of the PR firms actually went as far as to pay individuals to as a career to be activists, or per incident it may have been. I don't know the exact details. But they were paid by industry to come forward saying that they were consumer advocates and saying that they had all this information that they had gained on their own in front of city councils and state councils, or state representatives and stuff, and their activism was actually paid. Now, for those of you who may be thinking, what a wonderful way to get things done is have the industry pay advocates, it really is not the smartest thing to do, because then our opinions are not so impartial.
Right.
Yeah, Biker Granny. Only when you're on the advocacy is there a question of being paid, because we all know without a doubt that the public health advocates on the other side of the street are paid.
Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah, the big tobacco companies, they had several organizations set up. One of them was called Advocacy Communications Team. There was another, the National Smokers Alliance, and these were set up by PR companies. One of the PR companies is a really big and quite well-known agency, the Burson Marstetler Group, and several, big tobacco companies. They've, documents have been leaked saying they paid out. It's in millions of dollars that they paid out to these organizations to testify and promote and advocate for their products.
So, yeah, so that particular article, one of the particulars that it is talking about is the Chicago ban.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, you were a part of that, weren't you?
Yes.
You asked for you asked for turfing New Jersey guy.
Yeah. I did it all from my Rolls Royce.
There you go. Yep.
Bitches.
Does this give you a little bit of pride, actually, because this is something that has become kind of a daily thing for you now, hasn't it?
Yeah, that actually, this all happened when I first started taking the reins of the daily action plan, and I was actually really disappointed that I managed to get all of this together for Chicago, but I had missed that opportunity with New York City. But we still managed to tweet a lot at New York City. Yeah, this was right around, I went back through all my archives, and this was right about the time of the big Surgeon General's report on smoking and health 50th anniversary, the SGR 50 stuff that I put together, and then Chicago was right about the same time. And one of the things that the way that this study was done is they only looked at tweets directed at Chicago Public Health.
CDPH. Yep.
Yeah, they didn't factor in everything that was sent to city councilors, which was tons. And it's like one of the most. It's like one of the top 3 heavily clicked on campaigns that I've put together over the past year. Almost year. But yeah, it's so funny, and really, this has sort of come in stages. There's another report that I think Carl might have linked to it in his post, But shortly after the Chicago City Council hearing, there was a guy who, I guess he worked with somewhere in Chicago Department of Public Health, and they put together kind of a PowerPoint online presentation for people, anti-smoking advocates, city councils, and so on. And he came on about halfway through, and I guess I remember the slide number. It's like slide number 44 or something like that. He came on and said, if you guys are going to entertain ordinances like this, look out, because they're going to hit you on Twitter, and it's just hundreds of people tweeting, and they don't even live in your city, and blah blah blah, and just went down the whole thing. And so yeah, the Chicago public health people have been kind of carrying this AstroTurf line. I wanted to say quietly. I don't think it's been quietly. They've been pretty. They've been going down this path since the ordinance passed. And then just to try to legitimize their lies with a study, which, as Carl remarked, is actually, in comparison to some of the other crap studies that we've seen, this is actually kind of well done and well written.
Oh yeah, it is.
And it's I mean, the overall conclusion and assertions of the study are bullshit, but
Well, you know,
a decent job, and I'm happy they did a good job because now I can frame it and put it on my wall.
and Alex, and you should be proud of what you've taken on with this whole fight to vape and what you did here. But the reality of it, the important line here in this study is, and there's a very important line in this study, that few Twitter users were from the Chicago area. Twitter users from Chicago were significantly more likely than expected to tweet in support of the policy. However, they didn't put those numbers in there. I noticed that. But there is an important statement for us, much more important than anything else in here, in that we have, you know, in this room right now, you know, two of the Twitter accounts that have a significant amount of followers. The average Twitter account out there has 200 followers. I know Alex has, you know, over 1,000, and the militia has over almost 1,500 followers. And you know, you can be assured that the things that we post are retweetable. You know, and you know, if all of you, our listening audience and our Facebook members and our supporters, don't have their own Twitter accounts, you should have it and be retweeting the things that Patrick puts out, the things that Alex put out, the things that Clive Bates puts out, the things that the militia put out, because, you know, I know we have many listeners and viewers and vapors, you know, probably more than 10 in the Chicago area. And if you would have been retweeting these things, these numbers would have been much more skewed, and they wouldn't have been say that they weren't from the Chicago area. And, you know, Twitter is super important from, you know, I mean, and now we have our own name. We're AstroTurfers. Great. But it's an important tool for us to get our words out.
Well,
a couple of things. I don't want to give the wrong whatever. I'm just to say what came to mind. They actually did kind of factor in retweets. I think that was one of the kind of data points that they used, was who was retweeting who. If you look at that kind of cloud graph that they put out there, they were looking at relationships between accounts, and they found, you know, a lot of these accounts had, you know, one or more of these larger accounts in common. It's sort of, it's on one hand, it's what they used to demonstrate that this was some sort of orchestrated campaign, which it was. It was orchestrated in the sense that one central account, or a couple of central accounts, namely CASA, Fight for Your Right to Vape, and someone from Illinois Vapers, had disseminated the information about who the city council accounts were and the Chicago Public Health account, and that's really the extent of it. That's it. That's the orchestration. There is, here's the information, guys, run with it. Which the way that they're interpreting this is a complete misrepresentation of what AstroTurf is, which you guys have already described. None of us were paid to do this. This is just the way it is. And this is why this study is particularly dangerous, but I'll get to that in a second. The other side of this is that I think without even knowing it, and without, I haven't seen journalists pick up on this yet. I don't know how long that's going to take. But the people who produced this study are demonstrating a very clear misunderstanding of what Twitter is and how it works. And I think this might be something that Carl had pointed out. This is a pretty typical kind of analysis coming from these ivory tower scientist types. They don't really get out into the world that much. And if you look at the Twitter accounts that are attached to some of the authors that wrote this, which was one of my is probably one of my top 10 favorite tweets that I've ever been able to send out from the Fight to Vape account, was 4 out of the 6 authors are on Twitter. And then I think I might have tweeted, I tweeted them the link to Carl's blog about their paper from the Fight to Vape account, which they wrote
nice.
a paper on. So
Nice.
Anyway, so yeah, the point there was that they're demonstrating a clear misunderstanding of how we use Twitter and how important it is to us. I mean, you could go down this whole path of, again, we're talking about a class of people, smokers, now turned vapers, who are typically disenfranchised and pretty much abused by the system, taken advantage of monetarily. Most of us are poor. Taxes hurt us the hardest. Whatever you want to throw under that pile, we're pretty much screwed in this equation. And so Twitter, which is a relatively free platform, the cost of internet access is really one of the only few means that such a disenfranchised population of people have to easily, and in some cases relatively effectively, reach out to their lawmakers and affect a change in policy one way or the other. The really, really harmful bullshit in this study is that they, I'm sure for some people, have actually managed to discredit a legitimate grassroots tool in affecting policy, further disenfranchising us. So it really is, for as humorous as I find this, and a lot of us find this, it really is quite horrible and very harmful.
So you're saying it's a fucking bad study?
Well, the results were interesting. The data that was collected can actually shows that we do have an impact when we're using Twitter as advocates, which is interesting because we've not been quantified before.
Right, exactly.
And
Juan
how they chose to use the rest of the study to slant to their own maniacal means is there. But one of the things I did want people to know is, first I wanted you guys to know that Alex was responsible for that, making that study happen, and probably one of the key events behind it, and we love him for it.
Well, and Juan Pablo is a little bit upset because we're ignoring him. We're not ignoring you, Juan Pablo. We think Alex is cute also. That's why we have him on this show. He is the vaping militia eye candy. And
that was Robin's job.
No, she's fetching. And but you are, without a doubt, the cutest member of our team, Alex. And we don't have you here because of your knowledge. We have you here because we want to look at you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not taking my clothes off. We'll end that.
Meaningful, Alex.
But I did put, one of the things I did put in there is a Twitter's for how to understand the basics of Twitter. And trust me, if I can figure it out, you guys can figure it out, because that's Twitter's one of those things that has baffled me beyond belief.
Ethel, and you don't have to keep up with everything. Ethel says that it's, it's hard to find to keep up with everything. And I don't know about you, Alex, but I don't watch any TV anymore. I think, if you're on a board meeting, you're going to hear MASH in the background at my house because we have MASH on DVD, and we watch 8 or 10 episodes of MASH every night. That's our whole life is MASH on television. But I use Twitter, and I have multiple Twitter accounts, and I get all of my news from Twitter. That way I can, I'll follow one of my accounts. I follow news organizations, and if I see something that I want to read, something that I'm interested in at that time, I'll click on it and read that article. I don't worry about the drivel that the local TV stations give me anymore, or the bullshit that's out there. But you don't have to follow everything, Ethel. When I have Twitter rolling all day long, and if I see something that is interesting, I'll read it, I'll retweet it, I'll go to the base article and tweet that base article. I'm lucky that I have multiple computer screens in my office, and I can have one on personal and one on work. But Twitter for me has become my news organization, and in fact, you can get news actually much quicker on Twitter than you can by your standard old media nowadays. And it's kind of fun to be part of an organized Twitter blast. We did it a couple times over the last few weeks with this Who Cop 6 stuff, where we had organized Twitter blasts. The New York stuff. Our boy Patrick here, man, he was a Twitter animal on the New York flavor ban, and it made it easy for me because I didn't have to go in and write a bunch of tweets. I got to retweet what Knock Noir did because he did some extra work, and between the two of us, we hit all of the New York City Health Committee folks, numerous times, and so it is really, really important, that Twitter as an activist tool is an important tool for us. And what Alex says is correct. This could be a dangerous study for us.
Well, I think the danger to it is it alerts people. And however, there were a couple of things I did want to clear up. And Alex, I have to call on your expertise here. Is they called our action a Twitter bomb, and I understand that is completely a false statement, right?
It's there's a bit of I guess I'll split some hairs here. A Twitter bomb is something that you get from using something like Thunderclap, which is not exclusive to Twitter. Thunderclap, you sign up for, and you can connect your various social media accounts. Actually, you can sign up with. You can use your Twitter account, your Facebook, and Tumblr, and then on the specified day and time, everybody that signed up for it, the app tweets or Facebook posts or Tumblrs a statement on your behalf to your account, and the idea is that you have potentially thousands, hundreds of thousands of people saying the same thing at one time. Typically, those are not directed at a person, but it is sort of like a Twitter bomb, if you will. And the way that Carl articulated it is it's like the DDoS attacks. I'm not a hacker. Forgive me if I misrepresent that stuff. But basically sending tons and tons of information at a particular server or whatever in order to crash it. Am I kind of correct about that?
That's what a DDoS is, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of the idea of a Twitter bomb if it were to be, I think, released through some sort of third-party application. Now, where I kind of came into all of this when I started vaping and started going on Twitter to get more information about advocacy and the issues, the first people I started following were all the folks in the EU.
Yep,
and
me too.
They would do Twitter bombing, which it's sort of an appropriation of the concept of Twitter bomb, but it's not really a Twitter bomb. It's multiple users, real-life people, kind of rapidly sending tweets, which could be either on topic or directed at certain people, but and really the idea is to kind of get a hashtag trending. And I think one of the early ones that I saw was, hashtag e-cig save lives, which I think to some extent it did kind of get bumped up in the ranks globally, not just in the EU, but globally. So it's a similar kind of thing, but the way they're using it in this study, they're misrepresenting, I think, what actually happens. When I think of Twitter bombing, like I said, I think of maybe 100 people, who have maybe met, maybe not. I mean, now that I'm familiar with the concept and what the EU kids are doing, it's kind of like I can see them sending out a bunch of tweets, and I can just join right in, pick up on the hashtags or whatever. And it's like,
exactly.
Fire off a couple of things. Every night there was that one, I think it was like tweet like public health or something.
Yeah.
Which is quite funny. I sent off a couple. One of them was about, don't take a dump on your neighbor's lawn. Use the toilet. Tweet like public health. That was kind of fun. So it's that's there's a difference. One is an actual description of sort of a hacker type thing. The other is more of a colloquialism.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Well, before we move on to anything else, though, I do want to focus on one other aspect of this story, and that is, and to make sure everybody knows, is what Fight to Vape is. Right quick, because I don't know if we covered that.
Not this time, but
let's talk about it right quick, because that's your baby, and you've been doing it as long as I've known you. That was how I found you.
I'm sort of the adopted parent. Matt Allen is the one that put that together, and he started doing this about a year and a half ago. It used to live on ECF, and then he started posting it on Facebook. He got a Facebook page, and he was in the CASA Skype chat, and I actually used to help him spell check things. Because he's a horrible, horrible speller.
There's a few of them out there.
So after a few months of spell checking his tweets, he kind of reached out to me and said, "Hey, you want to take over this on weekends?" And so that's how I became involved. What it is I do my best to kind of follow the current events, and much like in the case of Chicago, we knew that there was going to be an ordinance coming down, and we want to help people be able to make some noise. And it's part of an overall strategy here. As we mature as an advocacy community, ideally what you have is people, constituents, meeting with their lawmakers, at the very least writing emails, making phone calls, and you're bringing up a topic. You're bringing up vaping. You're saying, I don't want you to tax these products in my city. It doesn't make any sense. It's inappropriate. Thank you for your time. And then later on that day, that particular representative, city council person, whatever, they get a couple of tweets from somebody. Don't tax electronic cigarettes. And then the next day they get an email from somebody else that lives in their district. And so now you've kind of multiplied the number of communications that particular lawmaker has received, and it's fresh in their mind. And the timeline doesn't necessarily matter who comes first. It's more of keeping it in the forefront of their mind. We all have to consider that our lawmakers are looking at tons of things every day.
Yep.
And it's very easy for our issue to get backburnered for something that may seem a little bit more important, may actually be a lot more important than what we're talking about. So it's really about just keeping the issue in the forefront of these lawmakers. And, this AstroTurf thing is actually a really great conversation about this. Some people might kind of be weighing, maybe the ethical issues of some guy from New Jersey tweeting at a city council in Illinois. And it's, I'm not really misrepresenting anybody. I'm not misrepresenting myself. It's very clear. If you look at my account, I'm from New Jersey.
Yep.
I'm a real person. There's a faded sticker of Santa Claus on a mirror. I made a really goofy selfie. That's my profile picture. But you look at my pictures, I'm a verifiable human being. I'm from New Jersey, and I'm very passionate about tobacco harm reduction. And so I'm not misrepresenting myself. I'm not pretending to be someone from Illinois. I'm really not doing anything unethical. And especially if you're in a major metropolitan city like Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, or Los Angeles, the policies that are enacted in those cities have a tendency to affect the rest of the nation.
They do.
So it's absolutely a national issue. More so, it's a global issue. So by all means, I put this plan together every day so that people from all over the world can just click on a link, and then you're taken to another page, and you click send, and through your Twitter account, boom, it sends a tweet. And I try to limit the number of public tweets. There's some very general ones like calls to action, support CASA, maybe some hashtaggy type stuff that we want to try to get trending. But for the most part, it's I try to be very thoughtful about the messages that I'm sending. If you don't like what I'm writing, they're editable. You can put your own message in there. Please refrain from telling people to. Someone complete that sentence for me.
Fuck off.
Julie might be watching. It might cost you $0.25.
Yeah, at least.
But it's it really is. It's put together. The idea is to make it more accessible for people. A lot of people, and you guys have even experienced this yourselves. Twitter is kind of alien to a lot of folks. Trying to condense very complicated ideas into 120 characters after you've directed it at somebody is very challenging and difficult. So, but more people want to get involved, and everybody kind of screams for point-and-click activism. And it's just one of those things that, if this is the least amount of stuff that you're willing to do, then do it. Just set up a Twitter account, send out 20 tweets and pictures of your salad and your dog and a selfie,
And a cat.
And then
And a cat.
and a cat as well. Cats are great. And then just participate in the plan and follow your friends. And the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to learn how to use Twitter.
I tweeted a picture of my gray cat last week and gave it its own hashtag, the gray cat, hashtag the gray cat. So, and I got a lot of people following it because they are cat, and so now people like cats know about vaping. So it was kind of cool.
It's kind of fun to find those hashtags that cross over into things. I'm actually very proud of another tweet that I sent out this week about the graph.
Oh, I did too. I love that. In fact, I retweeted that 2 or 3 times. I love that. That was.
When you click on hashtag curves, it's all porn.
Well, we've had a good time today, and I do appreciate everything you do with Fight Debate, Alex, and all you do up at CASA, and I do also appreciate all the other guys that have joined us today. Knock, thanks a lot for everything you do. Robin, thanks for all the craziness that you put up with, and of course, Jim. Thanks for dragging me into this. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't talk about eating dogs today. Okay.
Well, until now.
We're moving right along.
But we're gonna run out of time today. So usually I give everybody a chance to say something, but today we're gonna be running a little bit short. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. I did want to remind you, please catch us over at VaporCon in Richmond. Alex, Robin, Fred, and Ian will be down there. And if you happen to be over in the Phoenix area, Vaper Dynasty Expo, Jim, myself, and Mondo will be there. Please feel free and drop by and see us at the booth. And we thank everybody for joining us. As always, we'd be like a bunch of idiots just talking to a blank screen if you guys weren't here. So thank you very much.
We won't be here next week.
No.
Oh yeah. No show next week. Everybody's gone.
And no radio show either for the next several weeks.
Yeah.
And don't forget WCGO Radio tomorrow night, 5:25 on the Jeff Pincus show. We will be there.
And if you're looking, Alex, you got a request for some contact information in Nova. And with that, we'll get out of here.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.
Night.
Be well, vape polite, and responsible.